My name is David Welch. I'm at Brothers Tech Center every single week making sure your truck gets back on the road and looks good too. Today we've got Tony's 68 Chevy pickup in, and I'm sure you've seen this a couple of times. We're going to be putting side molding on it today. Now if you don't have a 68, don't worry, because the tips and techniques I'm going to show you today are basically going to be the same no matter what your truck you have when you're putting on side molding. So you stay tuned, you hear? We don't need anything special to do this job. A drill, a couple of drill bits, tape measure, ruler, some miscellaneous wrenches, a magic marker, tape of a couple of different sizes. I've got some clear silicone right here. I'll show you what that's used for a little bit later. This right here, a punch. This is really going to be necessary to help you get your holes in exactly the right spot. So in case you're not familiar with this, you just put it right where you want it, and then you push down and you hear that click, and it punches a little hole in there so that when I do my drill, it'll stay there and it won't walk around on me and get my hole in the wrong spot. So these are all the tools you're going to need. Now let's see how we use them. All right, I want my molding nice and straight, and in order to achieve that, find it easier to have my truck nice and level. It's going to be easier to check your lines and everything. So what I'll do is I'll get a level right here, and I'll put it on the bed. You can also put it on the door right here, and then just jack up the car, get it nice and even. And then I like to get some tape like this, nice skinny tape. Put it right on here, right on the line, and then carry it on down to the front fender here and right on the edge. Now this will make it easier for me to see what's lining up right here or not. And I've got this off a little bit. I'll try to get that a little bit closer, but if I can't, I'll show you how to compensate for that too. After you get everything all nice and straight and you're satisfied with it, I'll show you what comes next. Now some parts are going to be hard to line up, so to speak. Like for instance this. It's going to go down here, going to go up there like that, who knows. But we know that this piece is definitely going to go right here, and it's going to butt right up into the wheel well. And so if I get this placed on here first, then it's going to be a lot easier to line up this piece. So in a 68, your front and your rear wheel wells are going to help you out like that. If you had like a 69 on up, we've got this trim piece here, and you can see if you went down too low, it's pretty easy to see it's not right. If you go up too high, it's pretty easy to see it's not right. So you'd be able to get a piece like this, put it in the right spot, and then lining up the rest of them are going to be a lot easier. So find your pieces like this first, get them taped on, and then work your way to the rest. So I'll get my tape and I will set it up before I put my molding up here, and it'll be easier to grab and tape on. I want to make sure molding doesn't fall on the ground or anything. And we'll get it up. So we want to make sure that we're not too far down, we're not too far up. I can get my hands on both sides and feel that I am even. I can also use my yellow tape right here and make sure that I'm even. So now I'll go ahead and tape this on. So 67, 68 is kind of nice because I can screw it into my wheel well here and have it all stable in order to figure everything else out. The other years, unfortunately, you will need to tape them on for this process here. And what we're going to be doing now is we'll put the tape right below and right above. And then when I take off the trim, I'll be able to see where it was. I'll measure dead center of this, and then I'll go ahead and punch a hole, drill it out. I'll put this back on, make sure it's exactly in the right spot. I'll be doing this on the front and on the back. After I'm sure that it's in the right spot, then I can simply use the hole in the front and the hole in the back, and line them up with some yellow tape right here, measure them out, and drill the rest of my holes, but I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Now I'm going to go ahead and drill my holes here. I've got them measured out and everything, but I have to be sure that I've got access behind here. The inner fender is in here. I don't necessarily want to take it out. You could, but I don't want to. So I have to be sure that I've got access up in here, and so I don't want to drill my hole too far to the forward here. So I'm probably going to go somewhere about right here. Now right here there is a brace, and in that brace it's got a hole in it specifically for your molding bolts, and it is on this model here at about an inch and a half from the edge. So I'll go ahead and drill a hole here, then I'll measure about 6 inches, maybe 7 inches, wherever I'm going to have easy clearance here, and I'll drill a hole right there. I'll also be drilling a hole in my front right here, and then we can put it back on and double check everything. So just a quick little recap. We had our molding on. We put tape on the top and bottom after we made sure it was in the right spot. We took our molding back off. We went ahead and measured so we could find our dead center. We marked our holes. We used a punch. Make sure they're in the right spot, and then I use a little 1/8 inch drill bit because a lot of times when you use a larger drill bit, they'll kind of walk around on you and not get centered quite as well. So we'll use this as a pilot hole first, and then I'm drilling it out with a 1/4 inch hole right here. Now you can notice when I'm drilling into the paint here, you can see how it's affected. I'll show you how to keep that from happening on the rest of your paint job if your truck's already painted. So now that we've got our holes drilled in the front, I'll double check my back. And on the back, how I'm double checking is I just put one hole in. I don't want to put the rest of them until I'm sure. And so I'm able to line this right up here with my wheel well molding and double check all of this. And we can see that this is centered nicely, so we're good to go. So I've removed my front molding once I've made sure that this hole right here is in the right spot, and I put blue tape on it now. What that's going to do for you is it'll keep the drill bits from walking around on you, and also it helps keep that paint from flaring out like you saw before. After I've got the blue tape down, I'll get my holes marked out again so I can see them good, and I'll use my yellow pinstriper tape, and I'll simply put it on one hole and stretch it all the way to the other hole, and it'll give me a nice straight line across. Now remember, before I said that if your panels didn't line up exactly perfectly, this is what's going to be helping you, because if all of these lines are totally straight from front to back and your molding is totally straight front to back, if you've got any idiosyncrasies in your body lineup panels, they'll pretty much disappear because the molding is so prominent. So now I'm just going to go ahead and measure where my holes go and drill those out just like I showed you before, and then we'll see what it looks like. Just a second. When I'm planning my holes, I've got to figure a couple of different things. Again, you have to double check your access to make sure you're going to be able to get behind there. So for instance, in the front right here, you can't go all the way to the front because of the way the door is in the inside here. So you got to come back about 3 inches to get for that hole there. The back hole right here, if you open up the door, you'll notice there's a little bit of an indentation right here where the hole's going to go. So I'll start right there. It's about 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the door. I went ahead and cut my tape and then just fold over the edges obviously here so I can open and close my door. And then I'm going to go about every 9 inches and mark, and then that leaves me about almost 9 inches right there. In the back right here, I want to have my clip as close to the end as possible, because if you have this clip too far back and you were to catch your jacket or something on there, it can pull this off pretty easy. But I can't have it so far forward that I won't be able to get a nut on it. So on this hole here, you got to go back about 1.5 inches or so. This hole right here, I like to get pretty close to this clip so that it helps hold this down. But you can't have it so close to the edge because you need a little bit of forgiveness room in here. So I'll simply take the difference between these two holes, measure it out, which in this case is 10 inches, go ahead and drill a hole there. And then I just went ahead and did basically the same similar thing right in here in the back. So now I'll go ahead and gently drill out of my holes, punch first, 1/8 inch, Then I will drill out the 1/4 inch hole. I'll double check everything, and then hopefully we can start bolting some stuff on. So I'm leaving my tape on because I might have to enlarge one of the holes, and so I want to leave it on for that. What I'm going to be doing next is marking the molding where the clips go. So I'll simply set it up here like this. I'll bring it down, and I'll mark right on the edge where the holes are. Then I'll go ahead and install my clip. They install just like this right here. Notice how it just kind of spins in there like this. And then you'll take your spring and flip it down like that. When you need to move it, you just pull your spring back a little bit, get it into position correctly, and then you'll be all set to go. Sometimes on your edges, you might have to install the spring or the clip this way. Sometimes you might have to install it that way. So you might have to experiment a little bit on the edge. So I'll get these all set up on in. Then I'll trial fit it on and make sure that everything is lining up good. And when this is fitting up here, I want to make sure that it's comfortable. I don't want to have to force anything. It should fit on there just nice and comfortable. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to see what hole is off and enlarge the hole. When you enlarge the hole, you're not going to get a bigger drill bit and just make a bigger hole. What you'll do is if you have a hole like this and it's just a little bit too short, then you're only going to extend that hole out just enough to get your bolt in there, and that's it. Don't just enlarge the hole. So we're just about done. I want to show you a few more things though. Notice on the paint right here how it is not all gouged out like it was when we did not use the tape. So use tape and that'll help save paint if your truck's already painted. Also, since your truck is painted, you might want to get just a little paintbrush and just a little paint and just get a little protection around that raw metal to keep it from rusting. You don't necessarily have to, but it's a nice recommendation. Another thing that I like to do that you don't necessarily have to do, but I like to, is get just a little bit of clear silicone, and I'm just going to put it a little bit in my ends right here where the clips are making contact, and that's just to keep them from rattling in the future and such. And then I'll put just a little bit of silicone at the very base of the bolt right here, and that is so that it will keep moisture out from that hole, hopefully. So I'm going to set that like that. We've got our nut. Now this nut has a little rubber wash on them. Yours may or may not, but again, that's one of the reasons I use the silicone, so that it will keep rust at bay. This will just slip on like that and screw on, and we're going to be looking good in 2 seconds. So this took about 4 or 5 hours to do, both sides. It's really not that tough. It's more of a taking your time, concentrating, and paying attention to detail, because of course that is where the devil resides. You can see this looks so good now, I may not even have to paint the truck. We'll have to see on that. So you stay tuned and subscribe, because you're going to want to see what happens next. I'm going to be back next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. You make sure that you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because if you don't, I'm gonna be upset.